They say this is a 36-mile-per-hour e-bike with an 1800-watt rated motor, but we're going to put it through its paces today, see how it performs, and see if it's worth the I believe it's $949 currently as of me filming this. And if you guys are interested in picking one of these up after watching this video, please use the link down below in the description. It will be an affiliate link, and I'll put a coupon code down there as well, so you guys can get this bike at the best price. You'll save a few bucks. It'll help support my channel, and I really appreciate if you guys do consider using that link. But there are some things I like about this bike, some things I don't, so make sure you stick around to see if this is the right bike for you. But let's get into it here. The first hill that I test in the beginning of all my videos. Let's see what this bike can do up this hill. They say it's rated for 110 Newton meters of torque. We'll see what we can do as far as speed goes. Most decently powered 750 watt bikes are between, like the more powerful, faster ones are 9 to 10 miles an hour up this hill. So let's see what this will do. 10 miles an hour, 9 miles an hour. So 9 miles an hour, that's pretty good. It just dropped to 8 real quick there on GPS, but looks like I would say 9 miles per hour. So that puts it on the upper end of some of the 750 watt bikes that I've tested. So that's pretty good. All right guys, so I just wanted to do this first hill test real quick with a fully charged battery. Now, even though when I started this test, I only had like 3 to 4 miles on the bike, however, the battery was down a little bit. So just wanted to confirm the mileage up this hill. This is with a fully charged battery. I just tried this twice and got 10 miles an hour. So I would say 10 miles an hour up this hill, but just wanted to show you to confirm. So fully charged battery here. Like I said, it was basically almost full the first time I went up here, but I wanted to give it a fair test compared to any other bike that I've done up this hill, and 10 miles an hour, never dropped below 10. So I'd say 10 miles an hour up that hill, not 9. Just wanted to give you guys that quick update. So far this bike is, I mean, in my opinion guys, you get a lot of bang for your buck. Now honestly, they rate this at being an 1800 watt motor, but there is no way, because this bike's using a 25 amp controller in a 48 volt battery. So if you take the maximum charge that the battery could possibly be, which is 54.6 volts for a 48 volt battery, multiply that by 25, and you're only going to get a max output of 1350 watts out of that controller. So I'm not sure where they're getting their numbers from. Maybe that's the peak that the motor can accept, but that's not the peak that you're gonna get from this bike with this controller and this battery. But I gotta tell you guys, for the price point though, it is definitely a lot of power compared to most other bikes out there for what you get for 950 bucks. So let's test out the brakes here going down this hill. And that is the first thing I do not like about this bike, is that it has mechanical disc brakes. And you can see I'm pulling pretty hard here, and I can't quite lock them up, so not sure what kind of brake pads they're using. But that's the first negative. The first thing I don't like is that the brakes seem to have a little bit of lacking stopping power, especially for having 26-inch fat tires. I feel like it should have maybe had some more aggressive brake pads in here. It's probably something you guys could change maybe fairly easy, put maybe a set of ceramic pads in here. Not quite sure what style they're using, but they did send me their upgraded hydraulic brake calipers, and we are going to be putting those on later in the video, so make sure you stick around and see if they perform any better. Now I do want to mention they do charge a pretty hefty price for those hydraulic calipers. They are cable actuated calipers, just like I put on the original electric XP 1.0 that I did. I made a video a couple years back about that, and they did work better on that bike, so I'm sure they'll work better on this. However, they do charge a pretty premium price for them, and you can get them way cheaper if you go through Amazon. And if I can find them on Amazon, I'll put a link down below to save you guys some money. If not, if you want to make sure you get the ones that I have for this bike exactly from them, you can pick that up with the link down below. But I mean, for 950 bucks, guys, I mean, they did have to cheapen up a little bit on this bike, one being the mechanical disc brakes. So I'm in pedal assist 5 now. The speedometer is definitely off, so that means the tire size is probably maybe set wrong. We'll see here. We'll see if it evens out. Sometimes the GPS lags a little bit, and sometimes it takes a while to pick up some extra satellites. We'll see if it ends up getting accurate or not, but I don't believe it's going to be. I think that the speedometer does read a little bit high on the bike compared to GPS. But so far, seems like it has decent power. Definitely not what they say it's rated for, but still, like I said, for the price point, I think it's pretty good. Actually, really good for the price point. All right, now we're gonna try out the different pedal assist levels. Right now, I'm in pedal assist 1, and I'm reading 9 miles per hour, both on my phone and GPS. Almost 10, it's 9.9 on the display, so that's actually reading pretty good. Let's see what pedal assist 2 is. Oh, and the throttle is limited to your pedal assist levels. You can see full throttle, not giving me any extra power, so keep that in mind. If you want full throttle, you'll have to be in 5. Let's bump it up here to 2. Looks like it's matching pretty good there, 12.8 versus 12. My phone does not read in points of a mile per hour, so that's probably why the difference. Now, I feel like I need more power to get up this hill, but obviously I can't get it unless I bump the pedal assist levels up. Still pull me up pretty easy. And you can display the amperage here. Let's go over to that screen. That way I could show you guys what amperage it's pumping out. Right now, 0 amps. Let's see how these brakes do getting hot going down this hill. And I do want to mention, guys, that they did send me this bike for testing and review. But as you can see from the testing, we're going to definitely be putting it through its paces. And you guys can see for yourself how this bike performs. Very nice ride, though, with the dual suspension. Honestly, not too bad. I tested it around in the yard a little bit, testing the suspension, and it's actually pretty nice, even with that cheaper spring suspension in the back. Now, they did send me the upgraded shock for the rear, so maybe we'll be putting that on as well to see if that makes any difference. But honestly, guys, I don't even know if I would normally purchase that. For me being 170 pounds, it seems really nice just the way it came set up. All right, getting some speed here, 29, 33 on the bike. So it seems like once you get into the higher speeds, that's when the speed starts to get off a good bit. And these brakes could just need wore in a little bit also. They're fairly new here, but they do still feel like they're lacking just a little bit. So let's try pedal assist 3. And I noticed it pulls out really nice and gradual, guys. It doesn't jerk you off the bike when you go to pull out with pedal assist. So really smooth there. Looks like it's gonna be about 15 miles per hour, 16 miles an hour. Yeah, about 16 miles an hour with just throttle or pedals in pedal assist 3. Let's bump it up to 4. Looks like on 4, we're gonna get to about 22 miles per hour, 21 to 22, and 23.8 on the bike. Let's do pedal assist 2 again to see how fast that is, because I hit that hill, so that probably affected it earlier. Let's slow down a little bit here. And looks like 2 is gonna be 12 miles per hour, 12.8 on the bike. So like I said, the lower pedal assist levels seem like that they're reading fairly accurate. It's when you start getting up into the higher levels is when the GPS and the display reading get off quite a bit. So 21 on the bike on pedal assist 4 and 23 on GPS, 23.8. And let's see if this bike will do the 36 miles an hour that they say it will. We're in pedal assist 5, 30 on the bike, 25 GPS, 27 on the GPS, 29, 35 on the bike, 29 on GPS. So I don't think it's gonna get to 36 miles an hour. We'll try pedaling a little bit once we hit a little bit more of a straight level stretch. Right now it's just a little bit uphill, but I feel like they're saying it's hitting 36 miles an hour because that's what the bike display says. However, GPS here says it's a little bit off, and I don't think you're gonna get up to 36, but we're gonna try. All right, here we go. 28. Which is what most bikes cap out at for a class 3 e-bike, but you normally have to be pedaling. This is just throttle. 29, 30, 29, 30, so I'd say 30 miles an hour max speed with just throttle. Now let's try just pedaling. See if we can get a little bit more just pedaling. Seems like maybe a little less. So it's still fast, guys. Still 28 to 30 miles an hour is still plenty fast enough, especially riding around here in the country. Always afraid of hitting deer. So definitely nice to be able to hit that 28 to 30 miles an hour with just throttle. Absolutely love that. Motor sounds pretty quiet, and it's a pretty comfortable ride. All right, guys, so here's the cadence on the bike. 25 miles an hour, still have decent pressure on the pedals, not spinning them too fast. This is 27. Feel like I'm starting to run out of pedal now. 28, 29. So you can kind of pedal at full speed, but would have been nice to have an 11 to 28 freewheel on the rear instead of a 14 to 28, because I'd prefer to be spinning the pedals like this. So a new freewheel would definitely be a nice upgrade for this bike, but not too bad pedaling at 29. Whew. Kind of gets tiring there. Do a little bit of throttling. Overall, guys, so far so good. Very nice. Looks like with just throttle, this is slightly uphill, maintaining around 27, 26. I got hit with a big leaf. And it's putting out 24 to 25 amps on the display. So like I say, guys, you're not gonna get much more than about 1,350 watts peak, and that's at a fully charged battery. Once the battery's down like it is now to around 48 volts, then you'll get even less. So there's no way you're gonna get 1,800 watts out of this bike, but honestly, guys, even if it's not pumping out 1,800 watts, it's still performing really well for a $950 bike. All right, guys, let's see what we can do up this hill here. Just doing a little bit of throttling here. Start pedaling a little bit. $20 miles an hour, 19, 18, 17. Not bad. Under load right now, I'm down to 46.6 volts. And this bike does have a 48 volt, 17.5 amp hour battery that it's rated for. And so far on this battery charge, I went about 9 miles. So typically on a 48 volt battery, once you get down to around 43 volts, you're pretty much dead. So we'll see what we have here at the end of this trip, see how many miles we got, and see how much battery life we used. But I would have expected the battery to be maybe just a little bit more charged for only going 9 miles so far. But again, some of that voltage might come back once I stop and let the battery settle. And this is the first charge on the battery. It may take a few charge cycles to get everything balanced out. This was not meant to be a range test today, but we'll see what happens. Maybe we run out of juice, maybe we don't. This is cadence at 27, 28, 29, 30, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 35. This is cadence at 35, guys. A little fast, but doable. Woo. So I was able to get it to 36 there, but I was going downhill slightly. Not quite sure if I'd be able to get it to that speed on level ground or not. Now, one thing I noticed is this bike is fairly quiet, especially at max speed. The motor is really nice and quiet, which is nice. There it is there, full throttle. 29, 30, 31, 33, and it's still outputting 20 amps of current, so 34, 32 miles an hour, still putting out 24 amps, 23 amps. So it's definitely faster than 30 miles an hour. It does not cut you at 28 or 30. It keeps giving you amperage, so it may get up to 35, 36, like I said, but not quite sure if level ground's doable. Maybe we'll see if we can find a longer straight level stretch up here and see what we can do. See, kind of level here, 32, 33. This is actually uphill slightly, so 34. This is pretty level. I actually just cut my power. 36 miles an hour, and it's giving me 35 miles an hour. It's giving me 18 amps. So yeah, 35 miles an hour, guys. Once you hit 35, it'll maintain it there on level ground. You just got to get up to it. You just got to need a long enough stretch. Pretty nice. All right, guys. Now this is pedal assist 5 here. All right, guys, testing out the suspension here. Downshift a little bit. Up through this bumpy, grassy field. Let's see how it does. And so far, suspension is fairly nice for being a $950 bike, and to get dual suspension, it's pretty good. And honestly, guys, I don't mind the rear shock on this that much. It is a little bit springy, but not too bad. The front forks are nothing to write home about. You're not going to be skying this off of jumps or anything, but for taking out these bumps here and there, does pretty good. Now, when I first got this bike, I took it for a ride around the yard, and the controller was making all kind of noise in the frame, rattling around. I went and took the controller out, put some foam pads around the corners where it was touching the frame. You don't want to wrap the whole controller because you want it to still be able to get cool. And I put it back in, and you can hear there's hardly any rattle now. Most of that rattle is gone. I really don't hear any rattle anymore. So that is one thing I recommend doing. All right, everyone, here we go. We made it to the top of the hill on the Aipas M1 Pro. Now, something I wanted to mention about the battery life that I just noticed. A lot of bikes are programmed differently. I thought the battery was a little bit lower than what it actually is. So whenever you're under load, it's going to maintain the voltage of the battery under that load. It's giving you the worst case scenario on the display setting on the battery life. If you shut the bike off and turn it back on, it'll give you the actual voltage of the battery while it's sitting still at an idle. Some bikes are programmed this way, other bikes are programmed so when you hit the throttle, you'll see the voltage sag and your volts will go down, and as soon as you let off the throttle, that voltage will come back up. On this, whenever you get that voltage sag, it will maintain that voltage sag on the display here. And honestly, if you go by that, then you're less likely to run out of battery prematurely when you think you have a lot more battery life and you really don't. So let's go over some of the specs and features on this bike and see what you get for the $950 price point. Up here on the handlebars, you get a set of ergonomic rubber grips. They are on there very good too, guys. I don't know what kind of glue they use, but you cannot spin these. They're not locking, but they must be glued on. Next to that, you have a headlight button here and your horn switch. And then your control pad here for controlling your pedal assist levels, all your information. And then this headlight button here dims your display. It does not turn your headlight on. And the headlight on this bike is super bright, guys, super big. It looks like the same one that was on the Hanover bike that I reviewed, that dual motor bike. And also on the tail light, it is a brake light whenever you pull the brake lever. So that's nice to see for safety. Over here on the right-hand side, you have a half grip twist throttle and a 7-speed Shimano gear shifter, which leads down to the 14 to 28 freewheel in the rear. And that's what I said I would have liked to have seen an 11 to 28 for higher speeds, so you're not pedaling so fast. I showed you the cadence earlier, and even though it's doable, I would have still preferred the 11-tooth gear. That way you pedal a little bit slower at them higher speeds. It's using a Shimano turning derailleur with a cool little square derailleur guard here. It doesn't come down and cover the whole thing, but it's less likely that that's going to get bent in. Coming up the chain to a 44-tooth chain ring in the front and a set of large aluminum Nico pedals. For power, this bike's using a 48-volt 17.5 amp hour battery and a 25 amp controller powering the 750 watt hub motor that they say peaks at 1800 watts. But like I said, when you do the math, I feel like it's probably not peaking more than like 1350 at a full charge. But for 950 bucks, guys, what do you really expect? That's actually pretty awesome that it's 25 amp controller putting out that many watts out of a 750 motor for that kind of price. I just wish they'd update their website, because on their website it says 48/37, making you think it has a 37 amp controller. And if it had a 37 amp controller, then it would be putting out 1800 watts. But like I said, 25 amp max, I know because I took it out and put those foam pads on there. So just keep that in mind. And to charge that battery up, you get a 2 amp charger. Now, when I measured the seat height with my tape measure, it was about 35 inches to the minimum seat height, 39.5 to the max. Their website states that it goes down a little bit lower, and it would, but then it's not going to clamp right here. You probably could get a different style seat post with a different clamping mechanism and get this to go down like another inch or so if you needed to for shorter riders. But I'm 5'7.5" and can ride it perfect just the way it is at its lowest setting, and I have a 30-inch inseam. And for context, I weigh about 170 to 175 pounds as of me currently filming this video. For suspension, you get a spring suspension in the front with a preload on the left and a lockout on the right, and you get a spring suspension in the back that has an adjustable nut right here. You can make that a little bit harder or softer. Honestly, for my weight, I felt like it was perfect, and I'm completely happy with it. Not going to be taking it off tons of jumps, but it does take out the bumps fairly well. It does seem a little bit springy though, but like I said, they did give me their upgraded air shock to try out on here, so maybe we'll give it a shot and see if it makes it any better. But that shock is a little bit pricey. For storage, you have a set of mounts up here on the front that you could put a front basket, and then you do have a nice big large rack on the rear. Now, I prefer the step-through frames most of the time when I get bikes, just because it's easier to mount and dismount. I did notice a slight little bit of frame flex, but honestly, you notice that with most step-throughs. I didn't even think about it, didn't even really notice it during this ride. It was only when I was actually trying to make it through it that I noticed it had it, but it's around the same as most other step-through bikes. And one thing to keep in mind is this is a steel frame, it's not aluminum. So while that may make it a little bit stronger, it's not gonna make it any lighter. And when I weighed it on my scale, it weighed about 84 pounds without the battery, and with the battery overall, it was about 94 pounds. And the battery was 9.4 pounds of that. But I gotta tell you guys, I love the color of this bike. It has like a metallic in it, a metallic green, and really beautiful, this green color. It also comes in black, cayenne, and purple. So you have quite a few options there. The fenders are really nice. They seem like they're gonna keep the mud off you quite well. And it is sitting on a pair of 26 by 4.0 CST BFT fat tires. Gonna be pretty good for navigating over those bigger obstacles. And it also has a port here on the side. You flip that up, has an on-off switch for your battery, which is very, very nice to see. I love when bikes have that on-off switch, because a lot of times whenever they don't and you have the battery out of the bike and you go to plug it in, sometimes you can hear it arcing whenever it hits the contacts down below trying to charge that controller up initially. So that's really nice that they put an off switch on the battery, and you could also charge this battery in or out of the bike very easily. One thing I did notice about the battery, once you clip it in here, it seemed like you had to wiggle it back and forth to get this secondary latch to clip. So make sure you just wiggle that around once you get it up in there, and make sure that secondary latch clicks. For stopping power, like I said, this bike's using a pair of mechanical disc brakes, and that's the one thing that's not very good on this bike. The stopping power seemed like it could have been better, but it is using 180 millimeter rotors on both the front and the rear of the bike. So like I said in the beginning of the video, maybe it just needs a pair of ceramic brake pads or something a little bit heavier duty in there for a little bit more stopping power. But overall, guys, for 950 bucks, I mean, I don't think you can beat this bike. You get a lot of bike, decent power for the price, fairly decently sized battery, nice heavy duty kickstand, fairly comfortable seat. I was pretty happy with that. Still not as comfortable as the Cloud9, which I'll link below, but definitely way better than electric seats. One other feature that's nice to see, it does have a USB-A charge port underneath the control pad here for keeping your devices charged, and you do not have to have the bike turned on to use that charge port, which is really nice to see. I mean, you do have to have the battery turned on, but you don't need the bike itself turned on. So even when you shut the bike off, as long as that switch is on, your devices will be staying charged. Now, one thing that is awesome about this bike is the way the cruise control works. Even though I'm in pedal assist 5, I'm gonna just give it a little bit of throttle here, get my speed that I want, set the cruise control. So right now cruise control is set. It'll maintain, well, 16, 17 on the display, 14 on here, but it'll maintain this speed even if you start pedaling in pedal assist 5. It doesn't matter. Some bikes, when you're in a higher pedal assist level and you set cruise control, as soon as you start pedaling, it takes off the speed of that PAS level. So it's nice that it holds the speed when you start pedaling. To deactivate the cruise control, all you have to do is hit a brake lever or hit the throttle or change your pedal assist level. But that's awesome because you can maintain any speed you want while pedaling. All right, here's a nice straight level stretch and we're under half battery. Let's see what we can do. We're at 44 volts under load. Still giving me almost 24 amps at 32 miles an hour. So it looks like we were able to hit about 32 on that stretch, and we're down to, like I said, 44 volts, I think, under load. So very good speed, guys. Very nice. Down to 1 battery bar, so wonder if I'm gonna make it home. All right, guys, we're at the steepest hill in town, and the battery under load, well, it's only giving me 19 amps of output right now. Hold on, let me see what the battery voltage is here. Under load, 43.1 volts. So like I said, when you get down to around 43, you're about out of battery. I still have quite a few hills to go up before I get back home, so I'm hoping I make it. Down to 43 volts. So right around 43 volts under load, it will start limiting your power. Whew. All right, guys, so this is the last long hill I need to go up before I get back home. Now, up until this point, I've been riding this thing like a motorcycle, barely pedaling in pedal assist 5, using mostly full throttle the whole time. And that definitely puts a hurt on the battery. Now, so far, it is limiting my power, but so far, overall, since I charged this battery up, went about 20 miles, about 16 and a half on this trip, and about 3.5 before this trip. So about 20 miles total right now. Like I said, it's still giving me power, but it is limiting my output. Right now, I'm in pedal assist 3. It's giving me 11.5 amps of output right now in pedal assist 3, and around a little over 43 volts in pedal assist 3. Whew. Man, I'm getting a workout up this last hill. Let's bump it up to 5 and see if we can get a little bit more output for the last part of this long hill. Yeah, it's giving me 16 amps of current now. So a little bit more power in 5. And the voltage is at 42.6 volts under load. So it's still giving me power, 42 volts. It's just limiting it. So at least it's not shutting off yet, because still got about a half mile or maybe 3/4 of a mile to get back home. 42.2 volts. 13 amps now, 42.1 volts, 12.6 amps. Oh yeah, it's 41.8 volts, 11.5 amps, and whew, we're at the top of that hill. I think one more hill to go. I think I'll make it. So the battery level on the display is down to 1 battery bar. Now, it is not flashing yet, which is good, and it's still rolling pretty good here on level ground. It's just when you hit them hills, you're really gonna notice the power difference from it limiting the power once the voltage gets low. But that's very nice that it limits your power instead of still giving you the full 25 amps and making the battery shut off because it hits a undercurrent limit. Oh, I hear something running in there. That's scary, but I don't want to slow down too much because I got 2 little hills to go up. All right. Oh, there goes a deer right there. That's why I don't like going fast. All right, one last hill, and that's the one I went up in the beginning of this video. So we'll see how it does, because I'm about out of juice, guys. 17.13 miles on this trip so far with GPS, and overall on this battery charge, 21.1 miles. All right, here we go. Down to 40.4 volts and 7.5 amps of output. I did not intend for this to be a range test today, guys, but it looks like it is. Still giving me 6 amps of output, but definitely hard to pedal with only 6 amps of output. All right, that's the last hill. Whew. Man, this thing is a workout when you don't have the juice to supply you with power. Whew. All right, guys, made it back safe and sound. 21.6 miles total. Let's see what the voltage is at. Under load, it was showing 39.4 volts, and it was just giving me like 5.4 amps max on that last little bit back to my house. Let's turn the bike off and reset it, and we'll see what we're at as far as voltage goes. So 39.4 volts, that was under load, and this was flashing up here too. Let's see if it's still flashing. Not flashing now, and back up to 40.5 volts. So if you turn your bike on and you're anywhere below 43 volts, consider it dead, and if you're at 40.5 volts, you're real dead. And this is with the original suspension. A little bit bouncy. And this is with the upgraded suspension. I feel like when it comes back up with the upgraded suspension, it makes more of a banging sound on the rebound. There is no rebound adjustment on this upgraded shock. It seems like the compression's a little better and a little easier to adjust with the air, but being that that bangs when it comes back out because there's no rebound adjustment, I probably wouldn't upgrade the shock to this. I would probably either get a better one with a rebound adjuster or just leave the factory one on there. And I got the new hydraulic brakes put on. These X-Tech hydraulic calipers that are cable actuated. Now I had no problems at all installing the front one with the new bracket. However, when I got to the back one, the bracket that came with the new brakes did not work, so I had to use the original bracket here. And then when I put this on here, the rotor was actually hitting up underneath here and grinding, so I had to actually add a washer underneath here to get this to go up a little bit. And so far it does seem like the brakes are working a little bit better. Right, now we're going to try out the brake test with the original brakes on the Aipas M1 Pro. We're going to hit the brakes. We're going to go about 20-21 miles an hour. We're going to be top speed and pedal assist 4 throttle only. As soon as I hit this line here, we're going to see how many lines it takes to stop, and it's 9 feet per line. Whew. So I was able to lock the back wheel up, and it took 1, 2, 3, 4, so 36 plus about another foot, 37 feet to stop with the original brakes. All right, here we go with the new brakes. Oh yeah, 1, 2.5, so about 22 feet versus 37 feet. So way better stopping power with these new hydraulic calipers than the original calipers. So I would say overall that would be a good upgrade. Maybe not the price that they're charging, but if I find them cheaper, I'll put a link down below for you guys. Suspension wise, I feel like it is a little bit smoother riding. However, I'm not quite sure I like that when it comes back up and hits, that little bit of a banging sound. If you're a heavier rider, it may not ever do that unless the bike leaves the ground, but there's how the upgrades work. All right, guys, so that's going to be about it, but I think this bike performed excellent, especially for the price point. If you're looking for an entry-level bike with dual suspension, a decently sized battery, and pretty good power, this might be the bike for you. But if you're interested in picking up this one, please use the link down below and the coupon to save yourself a few bucks. And if this is not the bike for you, check out some of my other videos. Maybe one of those are. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you guys around on the next one.